Hey everybody, Jason here. Hey, listen, little shout out and a heads up that I'm finishing up Wealth Coffee Chats. Yeah, I know I can hear you being sad about that already. On the 19th of December, I'm going to have a bit of a break. I'm sure you are too. And I'll be starting back. So finishing on the 19th and starting back on the 23rd of January. But don't fear, never fear. We have chosen, we've grabbed the best of this year, and we're going to be doing some replays, live replays. I don't know. Does that make sense? Live replays. Anyway, we're going to do some reminders of some of the best content of this year so you can get your fix over the break and maybe refresh, remind yourself, focus in on the things that we had some aha moments throughout the year, some real, understandings of what it takes to become a property investor. You guys know the drill. We've got a couple of sayings around here. This thing's a marathon, not a sprint. And, you need to buy something well and don't bloody sell. Anyway, there you go, folks. Merry Christmas. Have an awesome, awesome break. Happy New Year. And look forward to catching up with you when I kick off again in January on the 23rd, 2023. And I'm theming this one, the best year yet. What's your word? What's your theme for 2023? Have you been thinking about it yet? Or maybe have a thought about that over the break. Anyway, folks, really appreciate you hanging out, spending time, being there each morning with the Wealth Coffee Chats, and I look forward to doing more with you next year at the same time on the same bat channel, but we might freshen up the look. Anyway, there you go. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and bye for now. There we go. Might be back on now, folks. Maybe by the look of it. Fingers crossed. I've had to jump back on the hotspot. There you go. We're still having trouble on our internet and bits and pieces. So hopefully you can hear me. Let me know in the chat if it's sorted itself out now. I've jumped on my hotspot. Anyway, still having trouble trying to figure it out. Yeah, they could be attacking. I think there's something, a setting in my router server that's stopping things right now. But anyway, let me know, folks. You can hear me, which is good. That's great, Graham. We're back on track, which is fingers crossed we can stay that way. But anyway, wow. Anyway, so there you go. Technology. Hopefully we can continue our Wealth Coffee Chat today. Welcome along. Welcome along. Good to see all of you on the stream. There's only a few this morning because probably we've fallen over too many times. Hey, morning, Joel. Yeah, might be too. Aaron, Graham, good morning. Melinda, good morning to all of you guys. Good to see you. Alvin, great to see you online this morning. Hey, listen, Kevin's all the way from Florida. Great to see you, mate. As always, hope you're well. If you don't know, if you're new, there's Jeff. If you're new, there's my name. Been property investing well over 20 years. And coaching property investors well over 20 as well. This is our 20th year. So there you go. And along the way, learnt a couple of things. And each morning we get together, have a little coffee, and we call that a Wealth Coffee Chat, and share, connect, and opinionate what's going on out there in the property market. And what's going on right now, unless you've been living under a rock, most of you haven't, which is good news, is that, interest rates have increased. And for some people, this is the first time in their life they've seen interest rate rises. They've only seen a decade of interest rate reductions. And it's a little bit of a shock to the system. But what I wanted to do today is do part two of our conversation from the other day. Part two from the other day, the rate hikes. We talked about, the changes in serviceability. What can we do as property investors to continue to go from where we are? We're in, let's say, the acquisition phase. The acquisition phase, we might have put a property under our belt. We're eyeing off, investment number two. And then, there might be some challenges with getting the loans. So what do we do? How do we continue to move forward? How do we continue to navigate the world of lending and make sure we keep our momentum going. Don't lose momentum, folks. Don't lose momentum. You know, getting that property, that next property is part of the plan. And if you can, you should. And how can we, you know, tweak that plan, improve it a little, and make the most of it out there in the world of property investing? So we're going to talk about that today. So hopefully you guys are ready and raring to go. And we'll see how we go when it comes to understanding what this might mean. We've got to start with the idea of borrowing power and the things that, you know, for you and I as property investors, we think might help us with increasing our borrowing power, our ability to borrow. So tell me in the chat, and this is kind of a little pop quiz while we're sort of sitting here, and I'll ask you guys a few questions. Tell me right now, what are the things that you think right now would improve? If you were sitting there right now, what are the things that you could improve, you could do to improve or increase your borrowing power? Let's say where you are right now. What are the easy things to do? Maybe put that in the chat for me. What are some things that we can do as property investors? We talked about yesterday, you know, increase the income, you know, and decrease the expenses. Yep. Better interest rate. So, yeah, lower your interest rate. Sometimes that will work for sure. Increase your income. Yep. Totally. So we've got two. So one sort of increase and decrease. Any other ideas? Any other thoughts where you are right now? Reduce expenses. Yep. Sometimes they go off hem. Sometimes they don't. That's tuning up a little bit, Alison, right now. That's tuning up a little bit. So we're going to watch this space, really. We're going to watch this space when it comes to those things. Yeah, absolutely, Joel. You know, if you can get your income up, for sure, a better interest rate, fabulous. You know, what used to be very doable in the olden days. Yeah, get rid of credit cards. Get rid of credit cards, absolutely. Credit cards, get rid of them. Cards, we don't need those at all. Any other things when it comes to those subscriptions and stuff like that do get in the way a little bit at the moment. So, but not as much. So yeah, listen, you know, get a cheaper interest rate, get rid of high interest debts, lift your income. That'd be great. But there's some other things, and we're going to sort of go through those in a minute, and you know, maybe work out a few things where we sit right now. So let's have a bit of a look around. Yep, certainly find the right provider, Kev, the right loan, and it's a tricky one at the moment. What used to be, tell me, oh, this is actually new in the zoo. This is actually new in the zoo. Back in the day, back in my day, anyway, still my day. What we would do is we would put our loans on interest only. I don't know if anyone remembers yet. Rent out your PPR. That's certainly a good move, Joel. If you can do that. If you can reduce your expenses, the challenge I think at the moment, Joel, is if you rent out your PPR and you go to rent somewhere else, there's no arbitrage in renting your principal place of residence in comparison to going renting somewhere else. It kind of, you know, you have to make sure you reduce the cost of living the other way around. But that's a good move. That's been done plenty of times. We used to be able to do interest only, and that would improve our ability to service. But that's no more, folks. Actually, at the moment, which is the first time 6 years when it comes to borrowing and looking at how I can improve my serviceability, servicing, not cash flow. Interest only often helps you a bit better with the cash flow, but servicing helps with the P&I. Yeah. So, you know, there you go. It's an interesting one. But yeah, listen, this is where we're at right now. I believe it will improve significantly in the future, folks. I believe we'll have some significant improvements in the future. So let's not, let's not worry about You know, is this the way it's going to be forever? No. It always has a bit of an overshoot and then an adjustment and stuff like that. Anyway, let's get on with doing some, you know, some stuff on here. Let's have a look at, you know, just an individual person, call it $70,000. If we want to add an income, we'll have a look at that in a little bit. You know, no dependents, just a single individual. Let's have a look at the expenses. Now, something easy for us to do is this living expenses calculator. I like this living expenses calculator. You go one adult, you know, where are we living? Let's call it Queensland. Basic lifestyle, moderate student. Let's call it moderate, you know, no children. What's your living arrangement? Okay, our rent, you know, whatever it is. Like, so what does that look like? Let's have a view at the results, right? Look, certainly the next 12 to 24 months, mate, for sure. I'd say that. I'd say we are going to see a couple more interest rate rises at the end of the year. I think it'll be all done and dusted by the end of the year or early next year. I think we'll see some reductions in interest rates come mid next year or maybe even earlier, and it'll tune it up. The interest rates are going to land between 5 and 6%, and we've been saying that for a little while. So that's where we're headed, and that's not my opinion. That's kind of like a lot smarter people than me, kind of seeing what it looks like. You know, inflation slowed down a little bit, cost of oil, blah blah blah. You know, I'm not an economist, but I get a feel for, you know, the world of finance, and the banks are having a bit of a go. You know, they're having a bit of a grab at the moment. So, but you know, there you go. So let's have a look at this, folks. Let's have a look at this. You know, when it comes to living expenses, you know, we can go on. All right, well, let's have a look at what this might look like. This calculator, okay? And monthly living expenses, we can go back and go, all right, what's the monthly living expenses? 3,009. So we go 3,009. And then let's see how much we can borrow. So, you know, for this person, 256,000, some simple things in their lives. You know, what can we do? That's not going to get you much when it comes to whatever. So let's say we get their income up. Let's say we get their income up 290, up 20,000. You know, let's see what that might do when it comes to our borrowing power. I think I might have put the income in pretty 900,000. That's pretty handy. That would be pretty tidy, wouldn't it? So there you go. You know, 418,000. So you know the difference in 20 grand, folks. If you have a look at this, right? You know, if we have a look, the difference in 20 grand is pretty significant. That's close to $200,000. So if you think about this right now, if we're all sort of thinking, how does it look? For an extra 10 grand increase in your income, roughly, now this is not for every single person, roughly it's $90,000 to $100,000 of increase in borrowing. Yeah. So there you go. What could we do? What if we bought an investment property and you know, had that in the mix? All right. So when you add the rental income in there, you know, again, the rent income, let's say you buy an investment property, you increase your rent, you increase your income and you buy a rental property. Look at that. We get to 555. So that's pretty good, right? So we're looking, okay, this is pretty sweet, right? So these are some of the levers we can pull, right? This is some of the levers we can pull. All right, well, let's go back and have a look at expenses, you know, the borrowing power, the monthly, fortnightly, whatever it might be. But let's go back here and we're going to add in with our expenses. We're going to add in like an existing mortgage. Do you have any other mortgages or secured loans in our expenses? All right. So let's add in this. All right. So let's say we've got an owner-occupier loan. Okay. How much is left to repay? Let's say there's $400,000 left to repay. And let's say you've been paying that loan off, for, a few years. There you go, 20 years. All right, you're in there. Now, $400,000. Should have worked this out before. 400 times, call it whatever it is. 4%, $16,000, right? Let's do 4% in here. So I just want to sort of show you what we can do. Let's call it, 4%, right? Let's do that. Monthly, let's do annually, let's do 20,000, which is interest only. Okay, so we've put it in interest only, and let's say, I don't know, 2 years left on the interest only. Whatever that is. Actually, we'll get rid of interest only because that messes it up just right now for the calculation. So let's get rid of that. So we've got our living expenses. Now we need to get rid of the rent out of there. Remember, we had living expenses in here and rent expenses. So we need to minus that out. So it's just 1,540. So we go back here. Now stick with me on this 1,540 because I want to make a point. I want to show you what you can do. Now see this here, like whoa, 192,000, right? So like, where even if we have got 90 grand and we're adding $500 a week, this is a bit rough, right? 192,000, right? So we've already increased, the rent amount and so on, right? Now just so you know, team, don't get too carried away. This is just some basic calculations online, which are very, very, very conservative, right? So don't take this as gospel, right, of where you're at, because there's plenty of other lenders out there who've got different. Okay, so but the point of what I want to make today, we can get the borrowing powers like, oh gee, that's not, we're not being able to borrow much here. 2,000. Let's have a look at one of the things that's most important right now, I believe, when it comes to this world here. If we increase that back to 30 years, right? So if you've got any loans that, have got 5 or 6 years already paid off on them and you're really trying to, get back at it, let's go and recalculate that. You can increase your borrowing power, by another, 50, 80, 100 grand when it comes to those things, right? Let's go over here and have a look at, all right, make sure we get a property that's got a bit higher income. What does that do when it comes to our ability to borrow? Gives us a little bump over here, right? When it comes to our stuff. And, if we reduced our expenses, let's say we did reduce our expenses, by, $300, $1,200. Oh, don't do that. 1,200. Let's have a look at what that might look like when it comes to our borrowing power. Doesn't really make much change. So reducing the expenses, and this is where, oh, hang on, I'll just press that button. Did you see, excuse me. Now, did you see for many of us, if we try and reduce expenses, sometimes a small reduction in expenses doesn't really change the ability to borrow that much. Let's say we had a $20,000 credit card limit. Let's check out what that does, right? So you can see that adjusts your loan, your ability to borrow. Look at this. As you put it down, up goes the ability to borrow, right? As you go. Now, if you've got a better interest rate here, 3%, you're not going to get that anymore. That gives you a little bit better ability to borrow, right? So you can muck around with these things. Let's call that interest only. That doesn't make any difference. Can you see that up the top there? Check it out. See that? See that? You know, the interest only. Now, the interest only helps with cash flow, but can you see how interest only actually reduces the actual borrowing power? Tell me in the chat, why is it now, which is a pain, Anyone know why interest only, from a borrowing point of view, reduces your borrowing power? Anyone know? Anyone want to chuck that in the chat for me? Morning, Chris. Why is now interest only reducing our ability to borrow? I'll tell you just quickly, because we've run out of time today for our Wealth Coffee Chat. Listen, put your rents up, people. Luke, dead right. Put your rents up all over. Well, what happens, Paul, team, is that the ability to borrow now gets recalculated on the remaining principal and interest length of the loan, rather than the full amount of the loan. So it's actually your principal interest payments actually go up, which makes your servicing less. So anyway, fun times, folks, out there when it comes to trying to get your loans across the line. A few tricks up our sleeve. Don't despair, because what I believe will happen will be a few things. Number one, your rent will increase over the next 2 years pretty significantly. I think the interest rates will come down a little bit over the next 2 years, and the margin, the risk margin, the servicing margin on top of the loans, I believe will readjust back to 2%, because the banks will run out of business, folks. Let me tell you, the banks like profits, and their most profitable product is lending money to people. So there you go. Anyway, hopefully that was useful. We did have a couple of struggling moments there with the bloody internet. But anyway, that's the way things are. We shall hopefully work that out over the next few days. All right, folks, that's it. I'm done and dusted. Wealth Coffee Chat done for Friday, October the 14th.